And because there are so many more things we can now automate with generative AI, it's become even more difficult to identify those opportunities, hasn't it? So, how do you think, or what is the best way in your mind for people to go about finding the right opportunities and, not wasting money investing
Hmm.
in things that don't deliver the right returns?
So I think there's a couple of things when I think about finding the right user cases. I have spent the last few months um, been quite frustrated, if I'm honest. I'm going to use the term digital iteration. I feel like many organizations have fallen into the iterative trap, and they're using Gen AI as a almost a replacement or as an addition to existing, let's call it predictive AI or traditional AI. And so they're seeing incremental gains, but they're solving the same fundamental problems. The approach I have is, and it seems to resonate with a lot of people I'm speaking with, is what problems, what are the problems that you didn't think you could solve before? Let's go down that route. You remember the days of RPA.
Mm.
And then we had intelligent automation, and you didn't necessarily need to find new problems. You needed to find the problems which you weren't able to solve with the technology that you already had. I think Gen AI is not that different, in that my approach is to find the document-based, generally text-based type problems, the ones with a significant amount of knowledge or experience being needed, and that's usually my go-to.
Mm.
And so you may say, well, what are they? And I'll use a few examples. Third line support, not first line. They're the simple stuff. That's what chatbots have been doing. Second line, maybe third line support, deep technical expertise, those type of areas in both things like technical support, sales support, where you have real complexity. Um, in the healthcare arena, in the legal space, we're talking here about trying to automate jobs, not of the lowest level employees, but the significantly well trained higher level. And that's where my mindset is. Let's not go after the same types of roles again. Let's go greenfield, and that's what I'm looking at from a Gen AI perspective. Now, what I would say is that a ChatGPT, a Jasper, and some of these other, I'm going to call them creative content tools, are still, in my view, only good for a small subset of the things that most people do on a regular basis.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, so you're not going to get a significant transformation by simply having a tool help you create an article. Why? You do that once every 6 months. So we need to find ways of working and capabilities in Gen AI that are more complex than your out of the box ChatGPT. There's capabilities like retrieval augmented generation that are taking internal knowledge and allowing things to be done that out of the box Gen AI will struggle with, and it's those types of problems
Mm.
that are situated in parts of the business that, until I would say the last 12-18 months, have been deemed too difficult to automate. And that's your sweet spot for me. That's where the sweet spot is, because often the people who I am now helping to augment, not replace, but augment, are on six-figure salaries and have college educations in their specific field. And if you can figure out where in your business you have those types of people, that's where I'm focusing in on a Gen AI perspective.
That's that's really interesting what you're saying, and of course, they're the ones that are often the busiest and
Hmm.
need as much help and assistance as they can get. And I think some of these tools coming out, like Copilot and Duet and so on, I think they will go a long way to help with that kind of thing as well. But then there's the return on investment, isn't there? how should we go about measuring those? I think it's still difficult because of the nature of the kind of work that we are now automating or augmenting. It's still difficult to measure the
Mhm.
before and after. And I've read that CFOs really want that. They want to invest in generative AI, but they also want to see their returns.
Mhm. Absolutely, and if you think about the returns, you have to then couple that with the risk.
Mm,
So you don't necessarily just want to break even on a return here, because actually you are taking quite a bit more of a risk than what you would be doing with something like with robotic process automation or intelligent document processing. There's a risk aspect here, which means the return should be higher. There's a few things I think that we're seeing in the market right now. Number one, there is a lot of organizations spending a lot of money. Um, I would suggest that most of them are spending more money than what they should, but there's such a fanfare here that the you can basically charge what you want from a services perspective. A lot of the things that are happening are not necessarily unique, but that there aren't necessarily tools and capabilities already pre-built. And so there's a lot of custom work being completed right now. Custom work comes with custom cost, and custom cost is generally a lot more expensive than an off-the-shelf software.
mm,
So those return on investments are incredibly important, because we're no longer able to do a 15,000 dollar pilot to prove a concept. Now people are being asked to spend $250,000 to still prove a concept. And that hasn't sat well with me for a while. You mentioned Copilot. I do want to. I was reading an article 2 or 3 days ago, actually, and it was talking exactly about that, Sarah. That there is a few head scratchers in the CFO and CIO world about whether or not Copilot is worth the investment, and if it is, how is that, and how can that be proven? Um, I would suggest it's actually really, really difficult, and we've struggled with this historically. How do you quantify the value of an arm saved over here, a leg over here, 5 minutes there, 10 minutes there? Because the reality is, work and people at work, they will generally struggle to quantify what they did with the time that they saved. If you can't quantify it, you can't measure it. And if you can't measure it, then you can't add it into a business case. And I often said this, and my ex-colleague, Will Harris, will say this. It's kind of theoretical value. Um, we should save X because our people are, and we've got a tally chart and it shows that they're saving 10 minutes every time they do this task. But what are they doing instead? Is it an extra coffee break? Are they taking longer on something else? Are they just finishing on time as opposed to having to work over?
mhm,
Well, if there's no extra work being completed as a result of this time saved, there is no value. There's no financial value. There's just cost.
mm,
And that's I think a place that we are in, both from co-pilots and other things. There is I believe, a real issue in proving value, which is why I don't want to go to the incrementally improving something that we've already been trying to automate and improve for the last decade.
mm,
And I think that's where a lot of organizations are going with their Gen AI deployments right now, is it's incrementally trying to be better at something that they have already spent a fair amount of time honing and improving. And that's why I want to go somewhere new, because it's greenfield, um, and it's generally more specialized. And um, the other thing you didn't mention before, which I thought was something to call out. Yes, these people are experienced. They earn lots of money, and a lot of them are also incredibly difficult to replace. And if you look at areas like insurance, for example, the average age of an underwriter, a risk assessor, etc., is on the rise, and there is a significant challenge in that industry that over the next 10 to 15 years, there is a significant amount of retirement. And I think it's those type of areas. For the first time, we have a technology that can try and take as much of that knowledge and experience as possible and truly replicate it.
Mm,
Because what they're doing is not with these, it's with this. Which is why other forms of automation, although potentially in small spades has improved productivity marginally, the only way to truly augment these more complex departments is with tools like generative AI.